A fusion of politics, commentary, entertainment, and sports. Steve and his team bring you the latest news and opinion now. Here is Steve Malberg.
I'm saying that they were ready to sign. I'm saying that this administration, this president, didn't want to stay, and we were there in Baghdad and in Erbil when they agreed to do it. Now, we were actually there. And the President of the United States would never give them a number of troops and their mission that they wanted to leave behind to stay, and we were there.
Left, the Iraqis would not sign the status of forces agreement, which would have put troops under our control, under our legal control.
All right, sorry, folks, I'm sorry for the technical difficulties with that video, but joining us right now is Senator John Barrasso, chairman of the Senate Republican Policy Committee, as mentioned, and member of the Senate Armed Services Committee. Hello, Senator. How are you, sir?
Well, great, Steve. Thanks. And I was with Senator McCain in some of those meetings with Maliki, and he's absolutely right. That they wouldn't give a number, and we kept saying to the administration and to Maliki that we need to make sure that we are able to leave troops there as a peacekeeping force. And the day that we left, look what happened. Maliki went sectarian, and it's all been downhill since then.
Isn't it also true, Senator, that in an unprecedented fashion, this administration, our administration, insisted on dictating how that SOFA, if there were to be a SOFA, would be voted upon by the Iraqi government, dictating the terms of that the legislature would have to approve it?
Yeah, the president was looking to make sure that he got no for an answer. And he put mandates in there, continuing to make it harder and harder for the Iraqis to agree, because he made a campaign promise that he was going to be out by a certain deadline date, regardless of whether it was in the best interest of the United States, in the best interest of security and protection for the citizens. He made a campaign promise, and he kept it.
Our defense secretary said recently that ISIS poses not only a threat to the region and our interests and our allies, but it poses a threat to our homeland. And I've heard this from other people, Congressman Peter King and others, that the makeup of ISIS, the fighters who have gone to join into that fray in support of ISIS, many of them are Westerners, many of them have passports and visas and could come into this country.
And the manpower, as well as the money and the weapons, all of which put our homeland in direct threat. We are the target, and my concern is the safety and security of the people of the United States. The area that they have taken in Syria and Iraq is larger than the state of Indiana. And when you see their commander go to the pulpit to preach in an area, this is very different than what Osama bin Laden did, where he took to hiding out. They are emboldened. They are out in public and feel they have control of a large enough area that he can come out in public in that way. And this is going to be a religious effort to go after, I believe, the entire Western way of life.
And you talk about weakness in the Obama administration and the foreign policy. Talk about how that has helped embolden the leader of ISIS, and also talk about how that, basically what amounts to support for the Palestinian Authority unity government, which includes Hamas, just flies in the face of anything that makes any common sense as Hamas continues to bomb Israel.
Well, whenever the United States leaves a vacuum, bad actors move in, and it emboldens and invites them to move in, and we have done that. When the president, draws a red line and his bluff is called, that invites additional aggression. When he makes threats about Russia when they invade the Ukraine with forces that are causing disorder there, and the threats turned out to be empty, that emboldens others, and it emboldens not just in the Middle East, it emboldens Russia, it emboldens China, it emboldens North Korea, so it's a global thing. And then with regard to Hamas, a known terrorist organization, when they hook up with the Palestinian Authority, as they have done, and the president is trying to pressure Netanyahu, the prime minister of Israel, to make concessions to the Palestinian Authority combined with Hamas, a known terrorist organization. It just shows additional Barack Obama administration weakness.
Before we get to the EPA, and this is something that everybody has to hear about, I do want to ask your opinion on what's going on the border, which of course is also an issue of national security. But with regard to the children who are there, the president's refusal to go down there, his request for almost $4 billion more dollars. Let me ask you about that first. Would you vote to give the president the $3.75 billion?
Not at this point. I want to see what his plan of action is. The president apparently doesn't believe he needed to go there. He did need to go to Texas for fundraisers where if he paid $32,000, apparently he could visit with the president, but he wasn't interested in visiting the border. He said he knows everything that's happening there. The real problem I have with the president's statements like that, Steve, is, 3 weeks ago he said the world is a less violent place than it's ever been before. And look at the violence worldwide. So he says he knew what was going on then. 4 days before the healthcare law website opened, he said, oh, it'll work great, easier to use than Amazon, cheaper than your cell phone, and then we saw the huge meltdown and collapse of that. So I don't believe the president when he says he knows what's going on. The president continues to talk a lot about that. And then the VA scandal, what did he say? He said he learned about it from television.
Yep.
So, that's what we have in the White House today, and I don't think that the American people are getting the kind of leadership they deserve.
All right, on the EPA, and you, of course, a member of the Energy and National Resources Committee, the Environment and Public Works Committee, we now have a situation where the EPA wants the ability to garnish the paychecks of polluters?
Well, and they said they came out with this amazingly right before Independence Day, one of those kind of late-night deals where they figured people wouldn't be watching. They said it was non-controversial. Look, let's face it, the EPA under this administration has a history of being bullies, using intimidation and abuse, strong-arm tactics, very heavy-handed. What they want to do now is make an end run around the courts, no due process. And, we live in a democracy, but they're sure treating this like a dictatorship to try to just take and grab power that I believe they do not have. They said if they didn't hear from people by August 1st, that then it would just go. Well, they've heard from me today in a letter to the EPA with other senators. So we're going to continue to fight them. And, I have a constituent in Wyoming who was a rancher. He built a little stock pond. They were fining him $75,000 a day. We had a family in Idaho, the Sacketts, that they were fined and fined and fined. They finally got to the Supreme Court. 9-0. 9-0, the justices voted in favor of this family and against the EPA and the lack of due process. So we have an intimidating, abusive EPA right now, and they're trying to take authority that I don't believe they have.
And just explain, is this, when they talk about paychecks, companies, don't coal plants or whatever, something that might come to mind as a polluter, an industrial plant, they don't get paychecks. So are these small people? Are these employees?
Yeah. Well, this guy in Wyoming, he's a rancher, and he built a stock pond, but they're not. And he got a permit from the state of Wyoming so he could do it.
Right.
But he didn't go to the Army Corps of Engineer and the Environmental Protection Group, and this is what's happened. And it's huge fines, and this is on top of the fact that the EPA just recently has put out regulations to redefine the waters of the United States.
Yep.
So they want to be in control of a ditch that 10, 11 months of the year there's no water flowing through it, but when it rains, water does flow through it, or puddles or prairie potholes where water accumulates after the snow melts or after a storm. But most of the time is dry, and they want to consider that sort of thing as a wetland and then take control over that water.
And, you talk about the 9-0 decision. That's probably one of the 13 that the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled unanimously against the Obama administration since 2012.
Well, we just had one a week or so ago about the president's illegal recess appointments.
Yep.
The Senate ought to be able to determine when it's in recess. The president doesn't get to decide that. And the problem is when we do sue, we tend to win, which is the good part. The bad part is it takes so long. So from the time he made those recess appointments, it took over 2 years to get it through the courts, and then to finally get the 9-0 ruling by the Supreme Court. And by then, a lot of damage has been done by the people who have been illegally appointed.
Oh, boy. All right, Senator Barrasso, great to talk to you, and thanks for educating us on this EPA thing. It's just another example of an overreaching, out-of-control situation. But we look forward to talking to you next time, sir.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. It's John Barrasso, ladies and gentlemen, Senator from Wyoming. I have another story here. How the EPA regulations are likely to kill a 68-year-old Louisiana peach orchard. 68 years old. The orchids at Mitchell Farms near north city of Louisiana, of Ruston, Louisiana. They've survived, winter freezes, droughts, dangerous storms, but they say they won't survive the EPA and its regulations. They established in '46. They're featured in tourism magazines, largest peach orchid according to its website. But here's the deal. The federal government has banned a chemical back in '05 used to treat diseased peach trees. And it's given him no choice. Most of his trees will not survive without that chemical to help preserve diseased peach trees. So many of his trees have already died. He's one of many producers across the country affected by the ban, which the Competitive Enterprise Institute estimates is costing the agriculture industry in southern states up to $1.5 billion a year. And the EPA claims using this chemical threatens the Earth's ozone layer. So I guess we're all going to be paying a lot more for peaches, and this poor family-owned business, 68 years old, which I'm sure he didn't build, remember, he didn't build that, is in danger of going bye-bye. What a shame. All right, folks, when we come back, Attorney Adam Thompson will join us in studio, and we're going to talk about the horrific case down in Georgia. What's going to happen to the father who left his son in that car, and to the mother on the Steve Malberg Show?